thank you to everyone joining us virtually today. Please allow me to extend an apology on behalf of every committee that's joining us this evening. The city's internet went down right before this hearing was set to start. So it wouldn't be 2020 if something crazy didn't happen at an unexpected moment. So thank you for hanging in there with us. And we'll go ahead and get started. This hearing is to review the proposed 2021 budgets of the Public Service and Transportation, Housing, and Criminal Justice and Judiciary committees. As we all know, this has been a very challenging year for our country and our city as we continue to battle the COVID-19 pandemic that has put stress upon our families, our healthcare system, as well as our economy. Although these times have been difficult, I'm proud of the work each of these departments we will hear from tonight have done to continue supporting our city employees and, of course, our residents. Whether it's providing pathways to opportunity for justice-involved individuals, ensuring our streets and roads are adequately paved for travel, or creating opportunities for individuals to live in safe, affordable housing, I am proud of the work being accomplished each day. It's always my goal to be transparent with our residents and provide the opportunity for constructive dialogue regarding the city's initiatives. This year, City Council embarked upon our reimagining public safety work, and this hearing is in alignment with those goals. At my core, I believe we must continue to reinvest in our community, our neighborhoods, our roads, our housing stock, our justice system, and most importantly, our residents. This is how we will move the needle and allow Columbus residents to feel safer and more proud of their community. Today, we'll hear presentations from the Department of Public Service, the Department of Development, the City Attorney's Office, the Franklin County Municipal Court judges, and the Franklin County Municipal Court clerk. Each department will present an overview of their 2021 budget and take questions following presentations and Q&A from members of the public and have the opportunity to provide testimony. We will now begin with the Public Service and Transportation Committee, starting with a presentation from Assistant Director Steve Wentzel. Steve, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Favor, other members of council that might be on. Thank you for the opportunity to present the highlights of the Department of Public Service's proposed 2021 operating budget. So the Department of Public Service is comprised of the Director's Office and 5 divisions. We have the Refuse Collection Division, the Parking Services Division, Infrastructure Management, Traffic Management, and Design and Construction. Overall, in 2021, we have a proposed funding level of $137 million for the Department of Public Service, which represents just a 0.9% decrease or $1.2 million as compared to the 2020 operating budget. Most of this decrease is attributed to lower than expected revenues and corresponding expenditures that's associated with the parking meter collection program due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. This overall budget will fund 844 full and part-time personnel that provide some of the most core city services, including refuse collection, which contains residential, bulk, and recycling, maintaining and improving our roadways, fixing potholes and plowing snow, installation and maintenance of traffic signals, signage, pavement markings to promote the safety of our citizens, publicly managed parking, and making Columbus a safer city for pedestrians and bicycles. So the department is funded from multiple funding sources. It's what makes up this whole $137 million. Technically, we have 5 different funding sources. So almost 75% of our funding comes from other sources other than the general fund. To kind of break that down a little farther, $78.1 million or 57% is allocated from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund, of which approximately 64% of that revenue comes from either gas tax or our auto license fees. The general fund does supply some of our operating budget, roughly 34.6 million, which represents about 25.3% of our budget, is mostly there to support the refuse collection, as well as a small portion of the director's office, or roughly $740,000. We have the Public Construction Inspection Fund. This provides about $12.9 million, or 9.4% of our budget. We have the Private Inspection Fund, which allocates $5.3 million, or 3.9% of our budget. And then finally, we have the Parking Meter Program Fund, Revenue Fund, which supports about 6.1%, or 6.1 million, or 4.4% of our total budget. So diving deeper into our division's budgets, the proposed 2021 budget for the director's office is $8.7 million. This represents about 6.3% of our overall budget. The director's office provides the overall coordination and policy direction for the department, as well as a consolidated and human resource activities. So moving on to the Refuse Collection Division. In 2021, the Refuse Collection Division, we have a proposed funding level of $37.5 million. That's broken down to $33.9 million from the general fund and $3.6 million from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund. This represents a minor increase of 1% over the 2020 operating budget. This proposed funding will support 226 full-time personnel that provide trash collection services to more than 340,000 households every week, 52 weeks a year. Of that 226 full-time personnel, 24 will be dedicated to support the Clean Neighborhoods Initiative to address the persistent problem of illegal dumping in our neighborhoods, with a total budget allocation of $1.9 million. This includes advancing policies to include continuing to replace our 300-gallon refuse containers with 90-gallon containers, increasing staffing numbers to support crews dedicated to solid waste inspection and alley cleanup, continuing to utilize the installation of cameras and working with our friends at the Department of Public Safety to capture and prosecute illegal dumpers, and to help us educate residents on how to assist with stopping illegal dumping. So far this year, the illegal dumping initiative has been a great success. Refuse collection crews dedicated to pick up and dispose of illegally dumped materials have picked up almost 6,200 tons of debris. Included in that number is over 33 tons, or over 3,100 tires that have been illegally dumped in our right-of-ways. Moving on to the 2021 proposed budget for parking services, it's approximately $6.2 million. Now, this represents a decrease of 24.5%, or roughly $2 million for that division. This is all supported by parking meter revenues. Most of this decrease is attributed to lower than expected revenues and corresponding expenditures that's associated with the parking meter collection program due to the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. The Parking Services Division is responsible for the administration, the enforcement, operations, and management of public parking in the city of Columbus. Building off the success of the implementation of the Downtown Parking Benefits District and the management plan in 2020, Parking Services will continue to apply recommendations of the Strategic Parking Plan. In 2021, the team will implement the University District Parking Benefit District and Management Plan, as well as the East Franklinton Special Parking Area and Management Plan, in addition to contributing to the development of the division's asset-light approach to curb lane management. Moving on to the Division of Infrastructure Management, the total 2021 budget request is $38.3 million, all within the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund. The Division of Infrastructure Management is responsible for delivering all services related to managing the transportation infrastructure, including pavement management, structures management, right-of-way permit reviews, and long-range planning. The division provides street maintenance services within the City of Columbus rights-of-way, including street sweeping, litter control, graffiti removal, and snow and ice removal. So, as a perfect segue today, with the winter weather we're having today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our snow warriors and how they're ready for winter and they're out there working hard. We begin this winter season with approximately 114 equipment operators, plus more than 117 additional city employees that are cross-trained to drive snow equipment in extreme winter weather conditions. We currently have 177 pieces of winter weather equipment. We currently have almost 27,000 tons of salt on hand, with the additional purchasing capacity of another 12,100 tons. The division continues to make enhancements to the Columbus Warrior Watch website, and residents will continue to be able to see how we are doing this winter season with snow and ice control. The residents can actually look at this at our website at www.warriorwatch.columbus.gov. Moving on to the Division of Traffic Management is making our streets safer for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. The division's 2021 total proposed budget is $21.6 million, all from the street construction maintenance and repair fund. This represents approximately a 0.5 or $121,000 decrease over the 2020 budget. The Division of Traffic Management is responsible for planning, educating, and advocating for greater mobility of various roadway users to ensure a safe and efficient transportation system for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicular traffic, as well as improving livability and safety within our neighborhoods. Included in this year's budget proposal is continuing the installation, replacement, and/or refurbishment of traffic signals in the amount of $3.6 million. Also included in this budget proposal for traffic is the division's traffic commodities, amounting to $1.8 million, which includes permanent pavement markings, traffic signage, school signals, and traffic signal parks. Moving on to the Division of Design and Construction. In 2021, we have a total proposed budget of $24.7 million, which is roughly 3% increase over last year. This includes funding of roughly $7.6 million that we get from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund, $11.9 million, which comes from that Public Construction Inspection Fund, and $5.2 million from the Private Construction Inspection Fund. The Division of Design and Construction is responsible for developing quality construction plans, managing design contracts, and enabling the department to build and maintain a safe and efficient transportation system. In addition, the division manages construction contracts, providing quality and timely construction inspection, surveying, and materials testing services in support of public service, public utilities, and privately funded infrastructure construction projects. This budget also includes $1 million to design and construct ADA compliant curb ramps throughout the city. I'm going to kind of switch gears now and kind of talk about some of the funding that we were able to utilize this year as it relates to some of our CARES Act dollars related to the COVID-19 spending for the department. Our department was allocated a little over $730,000 in COVID budget from the CARES Act funds this year. Approximately $204,000 of that was used to purchase much needed personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is the face masks, the face shields, gloves, some sanitizer, things of that nature to enable our employees to actually continue to do their job and do their job safely. Another $232,000 was used to purchase daily sanitation services. This is for some of the deep cleaning services at our facilities when there was a confirmed case identified by one of our team members. We also utilized some of this money to do some of our daily cleaning at some of our facilities to at least hit some of our high traffic touch points throughout our different facilities to actually go in there and at least hit those real good once a week to sanitize them where we know people are creating a lot of traffic in our facilities. We also used $250,000, thanks to City Council, to support the Cleaner Columbus Employment Program. The Cleaner Columbus Employment Program offered residents through 5 not-for-profit organizations in 5 different neighborhoods the opportunity for temporary employment for 2 weeks to provide litter cleanup and beautification to Columbus streets. In total, the 5 groups collected 5,789 bags, totaling 173,600 pounds of trash from our streets. We also utilized $49,000 for a pilot program for waste container cleaning and disinfectant services for over 1,500 containers throughout the city. That concludes my presentation of the 2021 Department of Public Service proposed operating budget, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Assistant Director Wentzel. So how have overall operations been impacted this year by the pandemic?
And
let me add to that might help you to condense your response. What policies and protocols have been implemented to protect staff who are frontline workers?
So to kind of expand on both points, we have put in a lot of protocols. I mean, they've kind of morphed over from the beginning of the pandemic to later on in the summer when we were seeing some of our numbers go down, and now that they're kind of peaking back, spiking back up. As far as all of our office staff, including myself in this, a majority of our work has been done remotely from home. We're able to utilize technology, working with our colleagues at the Department of Technology, or DOT, as well as our internal technology staff, to get people prepared to be able to do that from home. So we do have a number of, I mean, if you think about the building at 77, I mean, those are a lot of our office staff people. Most of those people are working from home now. We do have some people that rotate in very rarely to check mail and to make sure our bills are still getting paid, the plans are still being reviewed, permits are still being issued, but that's very scarcely. We're able to do a lot of our stuff remotely. We've also early on started rotational schedules with a lot of our employees, where some of our employees were working a week on, some were a week off. We supplied a number of PPE as well as sanitizing, chemicals for our employees to keep them safe, for the employees that could not work from home. And we've kind of transitioned back at the later part of the summer, having more and more staff that are our frontline workers come in 5 days a week, working. Some of our other non-essential staff have still been rotating on and off, especially now since we're seeing some of the spikes. But that's some of the things that we've done to help protect our employees. Just some operational impacts. Again, we've kind of already talked about the parking services division and some of the struggles that they're having both on the revenue side and on the corresponding expenditure side also. If you think about it, downtown, there's a lot of people that are working from home. So we're not seeing a lot of traffic downtown, where pre-COVID, there was a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people parking at meters. There's a lot of activity that was happening, and those revenues have significantly dropped off. So we've had to make some adjustments within that division, by delaying some of the hirings of that nature and maybe not building up some of our surpluses like we would like to be able to replace some of our meters with some of our kiosks and things of that nature. We've seen a lot of impacts within our refuse division and our trash collection. If you recall, on Monday night, council voted to approve an additional $1.1 million to pay SWACO and tipping fees. So as we're seeing more and more people working from home, they're creating more and more trash. So with that, we've had to come up with some additional fundings, working with our colleagues in finance and management to identify additional revenue sources for that, to pay them additional $1.1 million. Basically, if you look at it, we've already this year to date have collected like an extra month worth of trash. As you would think of, we're at like 13 months this year. That represents roughly 24,000 tons of additional trash. The good side of that is our recycling numbers are up also. So as more and more people are home, more and more people are recycling more too. Our recycling numbers are up a little over 10% this year. And of course, we always encourage people to recycle as much as possible and help us get those numbers up further anyways. And then really the last big thing is operationally that we're seeing, council member, if you recall last year, in 2020, we added a significant expansion of personnel to our budget in 2021 due to some of the increases in our gas tax revenue that we were seeing late last year and early this year. I believe we had programmed in an additional 62 positions this year to hire, and due to the COVID pandemic, we had to delay some of those positions, both because we didn't know what was going to happen to our revenue source, being gas tax and license fees. We did see a huge dip at the early stages of the COVID pandemic in our gas tax and license fees that have since bounced back, and we've since started the hiring process of those 62 people, but it's just kind of delayed us for this year. And we fully expect to have those 62 people on board sometime during next year.
Thank you so much for that response. My last question. So as I stated earlier, I am focused on finding opportunities to reinvest in our communities, specifically in communities that have been traditionally underserved. So the department began the rollout of the Vision Zero initiative this year, which aims to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries. And given the fact that people with lower incomes are twice as likely to be killed or seriously injured in a traffic accident, what are the current plans to continue implementation in 2021? And what budgetary implications will this work have?
Thank you, council member. Well, this is an important initiative for us, as well as I know for you. We're moving forward to roll out and start designing a lot of the initiatives that we're identifying with some of our early analysis of the Vision Zero initiative. You'll kind of have to look at, as far as the impacts on the budget, it's kind of a dual impact. We're looking at allocating both operating as well as capital dollars. We're going to dedicate some of this additional gas tax money that we were able to realize with the increase that the state did last year to be dedicated to our Vision Zero plan. So some of the quick hit stuff and doing some more of the studying and the designing of our Vision Zero initiatives, you'll see come out of our operating budget. And then we're identifying specific projects within our capital budget also that we're going to dedicate funding for our Vision Zero plans. Where we've been meeting on that, and you'll see more of that being rolled out next year as we're laying out our 2021 capital budget. But we've been meeting and developing those plans on where we're going to allocate those monies. And I believe we're dedicated to spend roughly $5 million next year on Vision Zero and rolling out some of those plans.
Thank you, Assistant Director Wentzel, for the response and for your testimony this evening. Up next, we will move to the Housing Committee with the Director of Development, Mike Stevens. Director Stevens, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Favor. Appreciate you having us here this evening to present on the Department of Development's Housing code enforcement, and land bank budgets. Joining me this evening is Deputy Director Hannah Jones, Assistant Director Hannah Reed, and Administrators Rita Parise and John Turner. Our general fund budget proposal totals $29.5 million. Our budget proposal supports initiatives in 4 areas: increasing the number of affordable housing units through our housing programs and land bank strategies, support entrepreneurship and job creation through economic development, enhance our code enforcement efforts, and look to the future with our planning and growth work. The Housing Committee provides oversight to Development's Housing Division, Land Redevelopment Division, and the Code Enforcement Division. Affordable housing continues to be a high priority for our department. The City of Columbus is dedicated to ensuring homeowners and tenants are provided with safe and sanitary conditions. The goal is to foster a housing market where every household with a full-time wage earner can obtain housing in the private market, and to effectively supplement the market where we cannot achieve that goal. The work of these 3 divisions play a critical role in achieving this goal. These divisions utilize a variety of funding sources to execute programming, and the general fund provides a large portion of the operating support for program delivery. The combined general fund budget for the divisions is $16.8 million. The Housing Division's 2021 general fund budget is $7.5 million. The Housing Division is split into 2 main functions: homeowner services, which focuses on stabilization of existing homeowners, and housing finance, which focuses on supporting the creation of new housing in the community. Despite the impact of COVID in 2020, our homeowner services team was able to continue to provide the following support to our residents. Our emergency repair served over 378 homes. Our critical home repair served 24 and completed 24 projects that were completed, including 4 for veterans. We replaced 25 roofs, and we modified 4 homes. Our Lead Safe Columbus program got a new grant that was ready to go in March of this year. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, it slowed down that effort, and 12 homes were completed with work focused on serving those with children under the age of 6. So COVID did have an impact on our homeowner services. We weren't able to deliver at the same level we have in the past, but I really appreciate the effort of the team to put together a return to work plan where our employees were safe. We worked with our humans and resources to make sure the employees safely came back and were able to provide those services to our residents that were critical. 2 of the main funding sources for the housing finance team are home and capital funds. Home funds are designed to meet the needs and address the affordable housing crisis by preserving and expanding housing options to the public in an effort to increase home ownership. Opportunities to provide affordable rental housing in the city and provide gap financing to construct new or rehabilitate existing housing stock. We're using home funds as follows. $1.9 million is for rental housing, which will assist with the creation of 250 affordable units at an average rent of 60% of the area median income or less, and at least 12 of those units will be affordable at 50% AMI. $1 million for homeowner housing, which will provide funding for 10 to 12 homes for households at or below 80% AMI. And then $600,000 CHOTA set aside, which will assist with the ongoing development at least 15 affordable rental housing units on the south side in Franklinton, affordable between 50 and 60% AMI, and home ownership opportunities in Driving Park for 2 homeowners at 80% AMI. We're putting $400,000 for home administration for development staff costs. We're also programming $325,000 for tenant-based rental assistance, which will allow and assist approximately 55 households who would otherwise be homeless. We're putting $250,000 to our down payment deposit initiative to provide down payment assistance for approximately 42 home buyers at 80% AMI or below. And then $225,000 for the CD collaborative work to work with and provide operating funding to local CDCs. In 2020, the department received approximately $11.5 million for the creation of new housing units in our capital budget. Oftentimes, larger projects will need to utilize both home and capital funds to be successful. Access to both funding sources allows us to serve a broader range of AMI levels. In addition to continue to provide these services, in 2021, the department will hire an assistant director of housing strategy and do the first triennial reevaluation of the residential tax abatement policy. The Land Redevelopment Division works with various community partners to bring vacant properties back into productive use. This work is accomplished through a variety of applications, including but not limited to blight removal, community gardens, traditional affordable housing developer partnerships, the Central Ohio Land Trust, and market rate development. The Land Redevelopment Division is primarily through the Land Management Fund, but also utilizes capital funds and general fund operating support. The general fund portion of the budget is $855,000. Two innovative ways that the Land Bank is meeting its mission is through the new Owner-Occupied Initiative and the Central Ohio Community Land Trust. The Owner-Occupied Initiative began in 2020 and provides up to 50% discount on land bank structures that are purchased by buyers who agree to renovate, then live in the structure for a minimum of 5 years after completion. This program allows for initial 30 listing period for the structure where only owner occupants can apply before it's being listed to the broader market. The Central Ohio Community Land Trust is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization established in 2018 in partnership with the City of Columbus and Franklin County. Our mission is to create and preserve housing that is affordable for homeowners today and tomorrow. As of November 2020, the Trust has completed a total of 38 houses, all of which are sold or in contract. In addition, 6 houses will start by the end of 2020 or in spring of 2021 for a total of 44 houses developed with the initial investment. City Council recently approved an agreement that will result in the production of 40 to 45 additional houses in additional neighborhoods, including Wyland Park, Milo Grogran, and Linden. CLT properties will be affordable to buyers at or below 120% AMI, and most buyers are below 80% AMI and are primarily minority households. The Division of Code Enforcement's general fund budget is $8.4 million. The majority of the funds is to provide operational support for 84 personnel. The Code Enforcement Division strives to improve the quality of life in Columbus neighborhoods through implementation and enforcement of the city's housing, zoning, graphics, health, sanitation, and safety codes. In 2020, the Department of Development was allocated $56 million in CARE funding to help the community with unanticipated needs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The city partnered with Impact Community Action to provide approximately 3,200 rental assistance grants for a total of $11 million. These grants are critical to provide stable housing to residents who face challenges with rent due to the pandemic. In addition to the community support, CARES funding was used to provide innovative technology to the Code Enforcement Division to install mobile computing in vehicles to allow for social distance safety and efficiency of our officers and residents in the field. I do want to say the impact of the pandemic on our code enforcement made it challenging. There was a time where when we were working remotely, code enforcement was not going in and doing inspections inside houses only on an emergency basis. We've worked with the team at Code Enforcement to put together a plan so they can safely start doing those housing inspections, which is really critical for our residents to make sure that we can protect them in safe and secure environments. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Director Stevens, for that presentation this evening. So I'm wondering if you could dive a bit deeper and talk about how the influx of CARES dollars truly impacted the operation of the housing division this year, and really, yes, from a technical stance, but also, tie in the work of the HOPE program and the level of support the CARES dollars was able to provide to ensure that folks were able to stay in their homes during this unprecedented time.
Thank you, Chair Favor. The pandemic had a significant impact on all of our housing division operations. I commend the team because they've worked hard on coming back to the office to continue to serve the needs, but also when we received CARES dollars from the federal government, and the mayor and city council decided we wanted to use those dollars to focus on addressing the needs of the health crisis, as well as the human service crisis, and then making sure we're working with businesses and where they're impacted. So as we worked with your office and some of the critical leadership that you showed early on, we found other partners to put together a program that we could fund that would get those critical rental assistance dollars out to those individuals who were impacted first. And I believe, as President Pro Tem likes to say, they were impacted first and they were impacted worse by the pandemic. And those are critical dollars. We talked a lot in the early spring about the coming eviction wave if we weren't able to not only provide dollars, but provide legal support through legal aid and some arbitration support if needed to help people negotiate. So we initially came out with $3 million to support the community. We recognized pretty quickly that those dollars were going to go fast. And I followed up with another, I believe it was approximately $8 million in funding. So it wouldn't have been done without the partners that we have out in the community. I want to commend Rita and her team for getting the contract out and working with those partners. But on the day-to-day support it was Impact and their partners in the Hope Fund. So I don't know if Hannah Jones has anything she wants to add to that, or if that answers your question.
It does. And, I definitely want to take this opportunity to not only extend my appreciation to the members on your team, but also to our housing partners for truly joining in this effort to ensure that residents were going to be able to stay in their homes for the better part of this year. We worked around the clock to get that program off the ground. And, despite the circumstances, I know that it's done some good out there in our community. And of course, my doorbell rings right now, so I apologize for that. Director Stevens, what actions are the Housing Division currently taking to increase affordable housing in Columbus for in 2021 following the release of the MORPC Regional Housing Study report?
Thank you, Chair Favor. I'm going to give a brief answer to that, but then I'm going to ask Rita Parise to dive into a little bit more of details on some of those projects that she's been working with developers on to really encourage some of these low-income tax credit deals, whether they're at 9% or 4%, and using our home dollars as well as our capital dollars. What I think was really important from the MORPC Regional Housing Strategy that was released, it identified that housing is an issue that's not just a City of Columbus issue. It's an issue that needs to be addressed throughout the region. And we need more housing, market rate, affordable, low-income, permanent, supportive housing. Across the board, we need more housing. So having that tool from the MORPC study to help us address where we can have an impact on building those mixed-income neighborhoods is really important. But I want to ask Rita if she can just talk specifically about some of the projects that we've been working on and providing support, and where we will be putting some of our capital dollars in supporting those 4% low-income tax credit deals.
Thank you, Director. Good evening, Councilmember Favor. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of the important work that we are doing with affordable housing, with our affordable housing partners, specifically focusing on the opportunity to invest a significant portion of capital funds in the coming year in some significant and impactful rental projects. Clearly, one of the headlines for the coming year is going to be the investment that we make in Mulvey Place, which is a senior development right in downtown Linden that is part of the catalyst to reposition downtown Linden. This is being developed with Homeport in They will be using 4% low-income housing tax credits. In addition to our capital dollars, they're also going to be investments of National Housing Trust Fund dollars and Federal Home Loan Bank funds. So we're very excited to see that one get into construction mid-year. We are also working with the NRP group, who is doing a family project with some very interesting income averaging and really doing some deep targeting on Sinclair Road in the Northland area. That is a fairly large project, I think in excess of 100 units, and is a family-oriented housing. We're also working with Woda Cooper Development on Lockbourne Green, which is on the south side, the former site of the Lockwood Apartments that were acquired by our land bank, and once again, a great partnership between us and our land bank to demolish that site, and now Woda Cooper is going to redevelop that. That's also going to have some capital funds invested in it. Turning to our, one more on the capital side is that we are working with Community Development for All People and Nationwide Children's Hospital, the HNHF Realty Collaborative. They continue to work on both rehabilitation and new construction, rental housing on the south side, affordable between 60 and 80% of the area median income. The mayor, with council's consent, has provided a total of $5 million in capital funds to work on that initiative. The director just signed one agreement today, and we will be continuing to work with them in the coming year on that initiative as well. And then looking at some of our 9% projects that will be going into construction next year, Maple Meadows, which is a home port project in the Northland area that will be a family project. We will be working with National Church Residences on an additional senior project in the Northland area called Bretton Woods, and we will be working with Community Housing Network on their first phase of Touchstone Place, which is permanent supportive housing. So we've got lots of exciting things going on. You know, we're already in discussion. Our applications for the 9% round for 2021 are due the first business day of the year on January 4th. We've already had some exciting discussions, including the wonderful opportunity to do some affordable housing in the Easton area. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but it is a very exciting time for us as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Rita. We truly appreciate your expertise and institutional knowledge, all things housing related. Director, I'm wondering if you can discuss the residential tax incentive policy program and how it is being utilized to encourage affordable housing development. To go along with that, what is the timeline for updating the policy, and what will the process look like for community engagement?
Great, thank you, Chair Favor. About 2.5 years ago, City Council approved an affordable housing component of our tax abatement policy. So going forward, to receive any type of tax abatement for a housing project, an affordable component was required in market rate or ready for revitalization areas of our community. It was the initial requirements is 20% of the project would need to be affordable, 10% rented to income qualified individuals make at 80% AMI, and another 10% at income qualified individuals at 100% AMI. When that policy was put in place, we determined that after 3 years we would do a review and see what modifications would be needed. So that the 3-year period's coming in July. So we are starting the process now of internal planning, working with internal stakeholders, getting a firm in place to do the update the data, and then we are going to use the first and second quarter of 2021 to engage the community and get their feedback on what works in the policy, what could be more helpful in encouraging additional affordable units in mixed income neighborhoods. So we are excited about going into 21 and implementing, starting the community discussion and engagement so we can recommend a new policy that can be implemented.
Thank you, Director Stevens. One of the things that you and I have talked probably ad nauseum about is the need to be able to pivot in real time. And, this is one of the points that I've been advocating for the better part of this year, is recognizing that, Columbus has changed dramatically just in the 3 years that this policy has been in effect. At that point in time, 10% of units at 80% income qualified, and 10 at 100% may have been sufficient. But now our housing crisis has grown to the point where we've got to go deeper. We need more units, and we need a deeper level of affordability. So, to that point, I'll allow you to make any remarks you'd like, or provide a response. But just, want our residents to know that we're not waiting until, July 1 to make those changes, that these conversations have been taking place. And we have been having these conversations with developers and actually have been getting some success without the policy actually being officially changed yet.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Favor, for bringing it up. I think that's a great point. I know your leadership and working with Mayor Ginther, both of you have made it very clear that as we have projects that might be moving forward between now and July, we need to look at ways we can be more aggressive on affordability, as well as other options. Are we making sure that these projects are investing in the right infrastructure to provide the internet connectivity to our community? I think that's something we found, became very clear during the pandemic of not everyone has the same access to the internet, and high-speed access to the internet is critical, whether you're at school or medical or practicing, getting healthcare or even working. That's another area when developers come to us and are looking, especially in those market rate environments, if they want that abatement, what investments are they making around our priorities? And affordability and connectivity are two of the biggest ones. So thank you for your leadership on that.
Absolutely. Director Stevens, the city created a new program this year to support residents who are looking for opportunities to acquire and rehab property that is currently in the land bank, with the creation of the Owner Occupied program. So can you speak a little bit about the program and your goals for it moving forward into 2021?
Yes, you know what? I'd love to talk about it and take all the credit, but in fairness, I think I'd like to have John Turner, our administrator, give an overview of that. A lot of that, let's give due or credit where it's due. Last year when we all met at the Recreation Center to do this hearing, this was one of the issues that came up, and John moved very quickly and put together a pilot and a plan to try to find ways to get land bank properties to our residents who are going to rehab them and live in them. So, John, can you please give an overview of that?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Favor. Yes, we have, so all of the structures that we list for sale right now, we have an initial period where only someone who pledges to live in that house can apply for that property. And in addition to that, they get a reduction of 50% off the acquisition price. So we have had a handful of buyers so far. We're a little bit limited on the structures just because of our inventory is so down right now, and we just have very few structures available. But we do have additional structures available on our website right now. You can find our listings by searching the Columbus Land Bank, and it usually appears as one of the first things on a Google search. It'll take you right to our page where we list those properties. We're looking at ways that we can tweak the process. We're examining ways that we can make it easier for owner occupants and give them more time in the upfront period to get their plan set and kind of work through the difficulties of evaluating a structure and putting together a good rehab plan. We're also looking at expanding the program for new construction opportunities. by listing our lots and having that same process where only home buyers that pledge to live in the newly constructed house would have a primary opportunity to acquire those properties.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. It's good to see you as well. And I also appreciate Director Stevens reminding everyone that this idea was birthed from last year's budget hearing from a resident in the Driving Park community that made this idea. And so it's incredibly important for us to continue to work alongside our residents. They have amazing ideas and are with us in this fight to ensuring that there's access and opportunity for all. So Director Stevens, rounding out my questions for you, get you off the hot seat. I've been really leaning into this conversation of reinvesting in our communities. And part of the effort of reform and equity in the realm of housing is simply building new housing that is deemed affordable. But another way that we can support underserved communities is, providing additional support to programs like the home repair, critical repair, roof repair program. And those programs for our residents who are unfamiliar with them help to keep the properties up to date, therefore keeping them out of environmental court for code violations or, building violations. So in your opinion, do you see other opportunities for additional investment for our residents and for folks who have been in Columbus, their entire lives and have felt like their communities and thereby their properties have been left behind? Excuse me.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Chair Favor, we have our home repair program. I think there are opportunities to continue to evaluate that and offer our ideas for adding additional resources, both to manage those programs so we can get more dollars out the door, as well as putting dollars into those programs. I think one of the actions that Council took on Monday night was approving the action plan for our CDBG and our home funding. And as we go into 21 and start looking at future ways to utilize CDBG dollars and update the action plan, that's an opportunity we can explore and are interested in being part of that dialogue. Because you're right, it's not just about building new homes, it's what are we doing to make sure that people can stay in their existing homes. And I'm really proud of the team at Housing and Land Bank and Code Enforcement that come together to really work every day on keeping people in their homes and making sure they're safe and secure, and we're doing the emergency repairs and providing the support where needed. So one of the things about adding an assistant director for housing strategies, we're going to have the advantage of having someone who is going to be able to sit and spend more time in the policy and strategy development space. And that's really important because we've got a great team that executes really well on programs. We just need to spend some time on what other programs can we be looking at. So, and then I'd like to wrap up and thank you for the support that you've provided as the housing chair for all our efforts this year. It's been unprecedented, and your support and your partnership throughout has been very much appreciated and welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Stevens, for your testimony this evening and for a unique and amazing year overall, though, working together, working collaboratively to make sure we're doing the best that we can for our residents in this housing space. So thank you to your entire team. So moving right along, we'll move into the Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, beginning with the City Attorney's Office. I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief of Staff, Brian Shinn, for his presentation. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. And I will be joined tonight with my fellow Deputy Chief of Staff, Melanie Tobias from Prosecution. The city attorney was with us until 6, but unfortunately he had to leave. He's presenting at CLE tonight, so he apologizes for not being able to stay. But thank you for the opportunity to present the city attorney's budget request for 2021. Essentially, we are asking just for a continuation budget from 2020. Our general fund request is $509,334, and our land acquisition fund request is $1,179,700 for a combined total of $14,689,034, which is a 1% decrease over our last year's budget request. We have no expansion requests for 2021. The budget request, if approved, will allow the city attorney to implement his policy goals for 2021 while continuing to provide the highest level of legal services to our clients in an effective and efficient manner. Some of our 2021 strategic priorities include providing critical legal services across a broad spectrum of issues and ensuring that enacted legislation fits properly into the city code, evaluating whether criminal charges should be filed and prosecute criminal charges in traffic cases, conduct police recruit and in-service training, and eliminate public nuisances that persist in the city's neighborhoods, approve contracts, defend the city against lawsuits, and seek opportunities for the city to engage in affirmative litigation opportunities that threaten the well-being of Columbus's residents, secure adequate resources for the best qualified attorneys and staff, for proper staffing levels, and for the law firm that represents the city of Columbus to carry out the responsibilities required by the charter in a competent and professional manner. And I just want to take a moment to highlight 3 2021 policy goals. We want to continue to work with Columbus Public Health on the development of policies and enforcement related to COVID-19 and the pandemic. We want to continue to work on criminal justice reform initiatives, such as the summons in lieu of arrest for nonviolent misdemeanor offenders program that Melanie will talk about, and continue to work with community partners on initiatives such as Project Taillight, where we partner with entities such as Columbus State to help members of the community with busted taillights to obtain repairs in order to reduce routine interactions with Columbus Police and to create a forum for positive interactions between Columbus Police and community members. So having said that and keeping it brief, Melanie and I would be very happy to answer any questions you have.
Let me get off mute. Thank you so much, Mr. Shinn. Has the city attorney's office been able to access CARES dollars this year? And if so, how were they utilized?
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. Yes, we have accessed CARES funding this year. The total amount that we have accessed is approximately $16,000. So we didn't have to use many CARES dollars, but those were mostly used for safety and protective supplies and then technology supplies. We were also able to secure approximately $15,000 in grant funding above and beyond CARES Fund to be able to implement those changes, mostly in terms of making sure that our workplace had adequate protections for our staff. And then also prior to the pandemic, we had not a lot of staff were able to access work remotely. And of course, with the change in our offices and our operations, now almost all of our staff are able to, at least in the civil division, able to access our workplaces remotely. And I believe Melanie can jump in if she wants to add anything, that at least all of the attorneys and many of the support staff in prosecution are also now able to remotely access their work.
Ms. Tobias?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Favor. Yes, that is true. The prosecution division, the attorneys are able to access their work remotely. We use CARES dollar money. I know of our IT department to buy replacement computers and laptops that would allow our admins, our legal admins, to take those home and be able to use them, and then they would also be able to access their work remotely. And so we've worked very hard over the past 5 or 6 months to, whenever possible, allow our employees to do their work from outside the office and minimize the number of individuals coming into the building.
Thank you. Can either of you discuss how legal settlements are budgeted? We've had some pretty high-profile ones in 2020. So what is the process the city attorney's office goes through when recommending settlements, and how does it impact the budget when outside legal services must be retained?
I'll be happy to address that, Councilmember Favor. So first, how it's budgeted. Each city department must have a line item or reserve to cover legal settlements. They are not part of our budget at the city attorney's office. We work closely with the city department involved and proactively with the Department of Finance and Management to plan for settlements and to keep them informed about all developments in the case and with regard to any settlement negotiations and their progress. The process for recommending settlements typically involves the city attorney's office meeting with our client to assess the potential liability to the city based upon the strength of our case. We consider the potential of an award of attorney's fees to the plaintiff if we are not successful. If we anticipate the potential liability will be significant, we proactively meet with the Department of Finance and Management and keep them in the loop on the progress of the case. The head of our litigation section meets with staff from Finance and Management on a regular and recurring basis to keep them informed of litigation matters where there may be liability for the city. With regard to the part of your question about the impact on the budget of outside counsel, this almost always is due to a conflict of interest between the city and one or more of the individual defendants. Although another reason for outside counsel would be a matter beyond the expertise of our staff, such as trademark work. Most typically, a conflict is the result of the employee being subject to some sort of discipline due to the incident at issue, in which case our office would be defending the city department in the disciplinary process in opposition to the individual employee. However, that conflict does not by itself negate the city's statutory duty to defend the employee or employees. So we are obligated to obtain outside counsel for the employee or employees. In other words, outside counsel for litigation is not retained for convenience, but because we have no choice under the Code of Professional Conduct. This is usually discussed first with the impacted department and then with Finance and Management. But it is rare to be able to make an informed cost estimate upfront on any case due to the unknowns involved in any litigation, such as how involved discovery will be, how long the trial will go. And as we've seen in this year and past years, the cost of outside counsel is one of several factors considered in our settlement recommendations. We almost always start out with a $20,000 contract and then modify it as necessary in consultation with the affected department and Finance and Management. But ultimately, Finance and Management determines what the funding source will be for the outside counsel.
Thank you for that. Ms. Tobias, earlier this year, City Attorney Klein recently issued a policy revision that requires police officers to issue a summons in lieu of arrests for nonviolent misdemeanors. How will this work impact the work of our officers and the City Attorney's Office?
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. I just want to clarify because we have a couple different policies working in tandem together. Columbus Division of Police, working with Chief Quinlan, has instituted a policy within the division where there is a preference for officers on the streets when they encounter a criminal offense and they're investigating it. If it is a non-offensive violence and they're not dealing with a repeat offender or someone with a history of failing to appear in court, someone that's already got outstanding warrants for their arrest, the policy preference in order within the Division of Police is to issue a summons rather than arrest the offender. Officers still have discretion if the circumstances provide for an arrest versus summons. But once the decision's been made that a summons is what is appropriate, then working with the police division, a directive has been passed that the officers, instead of issuing the summons him or herself on the street, will forward all of their paperwork to our office. And the prosecutor's office will then evaluate that paperwork and make a determination, one, will charges be filed? And two, if so, what are the appropriate charges? And we believe that this is going to make better cases for us on the back end when we have the opportunity to look at the situation as a whole, make sure that we have all the appropriate evidence we need, the witnesses we need, we're not, unlike the officers who are making very quick decisions on the street and having to deal with a lot of pressured situations. We can then take a more global view of what's going on in the case. Again, what other kind of evidence would we need in order to successfully prosecute? We also envision this being able to allow us to potentially intervene to assist a defendant or a suspect. Because again, we're talking about non-offenses of violence. Is this something that we could do as in a diversion process? And can we get those pieces in place at arraignment court for the individual and start working with that defendant and addressing their needs at a very, very early stage? And then even possibly, is this something that we could look at for pre-charge diversion? Is this, depending on the circumstances, something that we want to reach out to the suspect, talk to that individual, and it may be a circumstance where we can work with that individual without ever having to file a criminal charge? Then they're never brought into the criminal justice system in a formal way with a case number or anything like that. And I think that as part of our ongoing criminal justice efforts, that can be beneficial for the community. It's beneficial for suspects and defendants being rehabilitated and continuing then to be, contributing members of our community. We're excited to be working on this project, and we've got about 5 weeks under our belt now since that directive's gone out.
Thank you, Ms. Tobias. Can you let our residents know what the timeline looks like? So if an incident occurs on a Friday night, when could someone expect that, charges might be filed by the city attorney's office?
Sure. So the paperwork submitted to us by the police department is submitted electronically. So we get all of our paperwork. Premier One is the system that the Columbus Division of Police uses. That interfaces with the Matrix system in our office. So all of our information is constantly being passed back and forth between those systems. So an officer will submit that, and within 24 to 48 hours, our office will have that and the ability to then review it and start making decisions about whether or not a criminal charge should be filed in the case. And again, I think it's very important to remind the community that we're talking about nonviolent offenders. If this is a suspect and it's a situation where people's safety is in immediate danger, then officers have the discretion, and we support clearly arresting that individual, slating them into the jail, and removing them from the street in order to protect the community. And that would also apply potentially to nonviolent offenders who are continuing on like a one-man crime spree. So somebody who's stealing, it's the holiday season. We're hearing reports about people stealing things off of packages, off of porches. So if officers are encountering an individual that they're like, hey, I just, encountered you 2 days ago stealing packages off a porch, and sent the paperwork to the prosecutor's office. And again, yesterday, we're going to arrest that individual to get them off the street. But if it's not meeting those exceptions, then within 24 to 48 hours, we will be reviewing that paperwork and making decisions. An individual that is summoned, when criminal charges are filed, they will be sent a summons and given an arraignment court date in our arraignment court to come down, usually within 2 to 3 weeks. That would be the same time period as if the officer had handed the person a summons on the street. The individual's not taken anywhere. They're given a court date to report to down at the Franklin County Municipal Court, and it's going to be several weeks in the future for them to come into court. So that we're using that same process.
Thank you so much. I think it's just so, I know attorneys, Zach Klein, attorney Zach Klein has been really adamant about the role of the prosecutor in criminal justice reform. And obviously, we're in this moment in our country's history where the outcry is, being heard all around the world, right? And so I think that this is another way in which your office has really leaned into this conversation of reform from the prosecutor space and what you can do to help individuals that are treated unfairly through the criminal justice system. And then it's also, another way to ensure that we're keeping residents safe. And if people are not needing to congregate, for lack of a better word, in the jails, right? Let's get them out and deal with them on the back end. So I truly do appreciate the forward thinking and working alongside Chief Quinlan and other officials over at the Safety Department. My last question for whoever wants to take it. Unfortunately, we have heard a lot about how the pandemic has put a strain on domestic violence victims this year. How has this impacted your office's efforts? And will there be any changes or shifts in the work for 2021?
Our domestic violence unit has been under significant pressure and stress during the pandemic. While we've seen criminal offenses in general, especially again for nonviolent offenses, we've seen those go down. If you look at numbers from like November, I just recently looked at numbers for November of this year and you compare them to November of last year. Domestic violence, assault, protection order violations, aggravated menacing, they're the same. All of the other criminal offenses, especially again, nonviolent offenses, have gone down significantly. And there are myriad reasons for that during the pandemic. But it means that our staff in our office have been incredibly busy because their work has not slowed at all in providing advocacy services to victims, in prosecuting those cases, coming into court and having to interact with the public. And not being able to work remotely. It's been scary at times for the staff to have to come in, and we try not to bring the public in and minimize their exposure and the danger to the public having to come into court. And then when you're looking at the domestic violence victims themselves, this is an incredibly scary time for them. When you're subject to violence in the home, being in a position where you're quarantined or isolated, and society and the community for health purposes are reinforcing the idea that you should be staying home and that's the place you should be more than anywhere else, when that is the least safe place for you, it's terrifying. And so we are seeing, anecdotally, we are seeing scarier incidents, more violent incidents, and then the incredible amount of pressure and stress on the victims when they're coming to court. We experience that every day.
Thank you, Ms. Tobias. I truly do appreciate the work of your office and thank you for your testimony this evening. Up next, we will hear from the Franklin County Municipal Court Judge, Judge Paley, as well as Judge Barrows, if you'd like to bring a brief greeting.
Good morning, Council. I mean, it's actually good evening, isn't it? It's been a long day. Councilmember Favor. As you know, I'm Judge Paley, and I'm the co-chair of the Municipal Court Finance and Budget Committee. With me this evening is Judge Ted Barrows. I think on the line also is Emily Shaw, our court administrator, John Davenport, our deputy court administrator, and Tanika Jackson, our finance director. I think they're under the court saying. Thank you for the opportunity to address the court's 2021 operating budget. The city has a stellar finance department, and we appreciate their support and guidance throughout this very important process. A special thank you to Director Lombardi and Deputy Director Giandella and Azad Farzen, the court's budget management specialist. The court's 2021 budget, as recommended by the mayor, amounts to $20,429,897, which is appropriate to meet our 2021 operating expenses. The court is extremely appreciative of the considerations given by the Finance Department. The court's general fund budget requests include funding to offset a portion of the costs associated with the court's specialized dockets, the link docket, catch, MAVs, heart, and the drug court. These dockets help the court provide wraparound care so that the underlying issues that contribute to a participant's criminal behavior may be successfully resolved. The specialized dockets have reduced the overall number of jail nights, improved community safety through lower recidivism rates, and reunified families, and have returned many participants to a productive life, contributing to the community in a positive way. $125,000 to support the court's work release program, and an alternative to sentencing option in lieu of mandatory jail sentence, which allows individuals to maintain their employment while serving their sentence, which especially in this today's pandemic is incredibly important that people maintain their jobs. $200,000 is dedicated to provide language services to the court and all the parties. These monies are dedicated to multiple contracts with outside vendors that provide foreign language and American Sign Language interpreters. Foreign language interpretation is a vital part of the global community that is the city of Columbus. And with a thanks to the city finance, we are able to rise to the challenge of providing services to every litigant who appears in our court. $575,000 will provide essential contracted services for evening, weekend, and holiday building security. This contract, in conjunction with the court's own security personnel, allows the public to have access to the courthouse and the clerk's office 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The city granted the court's request to gradually phase its appropriations for court security officers from the Special Revenue Fund and into the General Fund. This action will provide great financial relief to the security fund and will assist in helping this fund become accessible for essential security technology and supplies. In a year when the world has been everything but normal, the court expresses our extreme gratitude for the CARES funding we have received through the city. With this funding, the court has been able to move the busiest docket to the Greater Columbus Convention Center. This has allowed the court the ability to adhere to the CDC guidelines of social distancing as we all learn to navigate through this pandemic. The court will be implementing software that will provide electronic workflow of court documents, mapping and routing tools for our service bailiffs, enhanced record keeping for appointed counsel, and a lot more. This will provide the ability to eliminate paper files, which are high-touch services that are passed from person to person in rapid succession and can be a major source of viral transmission. In addition, CARES funding has afforded the court the ability for many employees to work remotely and to provide PPE to its employees and to the public. The court has also been recipients of multiple grant awards. From the Ohio Supreme Court provided video equipment that has been installed and is in use in its in-custody arraignment courtroom. That means that arraignments now take place with the judge on site in the courtroom while the arrestee remains off-site at the jail. This represents a substantial step forward in reducing a whole host of risks associated with the movement of incarcerated persons, including the spread of COVID-19. The court also received funding from the Supreme Court to provide mobile video carts for each courtroom floor that will allow hearings to be held remotely. The courthouse has also received multiple non-pandemic grant awards, which demonstrates our commitment to working for and bettering the lives of our neighbors and the community. Franklin County has provided us with grant awards that provide peer support mentors to 2 of the specialized dockets, domestic violence support for the LGBTQI community, and interpretation services for non-English speaking probationers who are assigned to complete domestic violence counseling. The state of Ohio has provided grant awards to support advocacy for victims of domestic violence, contracts for probation assessment specialist services, and the improvements of pretrial services unit. The court has received 2 awards from the U.S. Bureau of Justice Assistance. Each award is for a term of 3 years and has a cumulative total of $1,356,991. One grant focuses on extending and expanding the court's medication-assisted treatment program, while the other grant provides additional peers and services to the Heart Recovery Court and MAV's specialized dockets. The court employs restorative and therapeutic justice by offering programming and intervention responses tailored to individual needs that are proven to be effective tools to reduce and prevent recidivism. The court has proactively engaged and received favorable responses and continued collaboration with other government partners like yourself, the mayor, Common Pleas Court, the county commissioners, the sheriff's department. These partnerships and sharing of resources is essential towards long-term program sustainability, and success will lead to greater program efficiencies, cost-saving measures, and increased resources, all of which affect the court's ability to be positive problem solvers. The Franklin is the largest and busiest municipal court in Ohio. We continually strive to improve our services to every litigant who appears in this court and to be wise and efficient stewards of taxpayer resources. We appreciate the financial support that we received in these difficult economic times and hope that this continued support is a reflection of your trust in the way we conduct our operations and expend taxpayer dollars. Chairperson Favor, thank you for your support and this opportunity. We would all be glad to answer any of the questions that you or any other people online might have. I would like to say, in my 33 years now of practice, this has to be the most progressive court ever that is very interested in solving our community's problems and not making them. So I'm very proud to be on this bench, and I'm very proud of the relationship that we have with the city and the improvements that we've made because of it.
Thank you, Judge Paley, for your testimony this evening. You in your remarks, you talked a little bit about the utilization of the CARES funding to support the move to the convention center to handle the eviction and traffic dockets. And I think it's important for us to clear the air, if you will, about the necessity to move to the convention center as not as a way to process evictions at a faster rate, but really as a means of protecting our residents, as well as the staff of the courts, as well as the clerk's office. So I'm wondering if you could, speak to that, because that has been a narrative that's, been out in the community. And I think it's important for us to clear that today. And then if you could also talk about what the plan is for the end of March, when eviction and traffic dockets move back to the regular courthouse.
That's been a topic of conversation that Judge Barrows has been working with for a couple weeks now. Obviously, he's going to hand it back to me. So I will say we're not trying to move evictions faster. We actually have a cap on the amount of evictions that we are allowing to be filed on a daily basis, so that we can maintain social distancing and protect the community. We have had ongoing discussions with regards to what the cap should be or shouldn't be based on what people are seeing or not seeing. I would put it out there that we have provided all kinds of resolutions for issues that have come up. I'm not hearing anybody make any suggestions as to other resolutions. We're open to that conversation. But what's a lot different from the courthouse to city council, I will say, is that we are non-political, non-biased. we have to equally distribute justice to everyone, and that includes landlords and tenants. And so there was a very, very long period of time, and there still is, that landlords will tell you they are not allowed to be heard in our court system. We are following the directives of the Supreme Court and the federal government. And whatever that directive is what we follow in the safest way that we can for the community. We have gone out of our way to provide resources to both sides of eviction cases, both landlords and tenants. I'm very proud of our self-help clinic. Mr. Southers has been all over the community, and it's one of the first times I've ever our court have a community outreach team that Mr. Southers has put together. We want to help anybody and everybody that we can. My famous saying in my courtroom is, what can I do for you to make you not visit me in the courthouse, because I'd rather see you at the grocery store? And that really is what we're trying to do. And I think everybody wants to do that. We're really not the enemy. We are open to any suggestions that will help all parties with the point that we must be fair to everyone. And we must be fair that everyone's rights are being met. And that's why, and I consider us essential workers. And that's why we're still working, because we are incredibly important to the safety and health of this community.
Thank you, Judge Paley. I think on the same lines, it's important for residents who have never been to our existing courthouse to also understand that that building is, old and was never meant to be a facility that was in any capacity socially distanced and able to execute what our public health director has been mandating for the better part of this year. It just was never going to work. So, absent the conversation around just a moratorium on evictions, with that, setting that aside, I think it's just important for us to level set as to why these dockets are being held at a space that provides us space, right? So thank you for your response there. With that being said, let me also take this opportunity to uplift two of our partners. The reality is that my first year on council, we were able to start the eviction prevention program, which was just a $300,000 investment in what has now been, with the good fortune of our congressional delegation, supported through the CARES Act dollars, now a tenant-based rental assistance program, which provided dollars for emergency rental assistance, as well as legal aid services, as well as mediation services. So a move to the convention center wouldn't even be possible if we did not have funds to be able to support residents who were in desperate need of staying in their homes at that time. So let me please give a round of applause to our Congresswoman, as well as legal aid and community mediation, and all of the amazing housing partners that have been supportive during this unprecedented year. So with that being said, Judge Paley or Judge Barrows, how have judges examined cases this past year in the consideration of jail sentencing options as we all seek to reduce the spread of COVID-19? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go. We get lists every day from the jail that is distributed to all of the judges. And we have probably the best probation services department in the country, I would think. So we're evidence-based. They try to hit people when they walk into the jail to find out what resources that we can supply for them to stay out of jail. All of the judges are on I don't think anyone in our courthouse, anybody that's coming to our courthouse is being held unless it's a violent crime or a repeat offender that is a threat to the safety and health of the community. So I would say all 15 or 14 judges are working feverishly to make sure that nobody from our court is in the jail unless they need to be. And unlike before COVID, so this is kind of a good thing. This is happening daily. Every day we're going through our lists. Every day we're trying to find beds for people that need treatment or housing for people or food for people, and trying to find the sources of why they're committing the crimes that they're committing and to get them to meet me at the grocery store instead of in my courtroom. We have an incredible team of people that are working collaboratively across the board. We actually just had a meeting with Adam H. And other people that we're reaching out to. We are just got a grant that we're working on, a resource center that will be open to the public, that will provide resources that will help prevent people coming to the court. Quite frankly, we would like to be in the position where we had less judges because we didn't have enough work to do. That's what our goal is. Or that we can get out there and teach some civic classes. This bench really cares about the community. No intention of putting people in jail that don't need to be there. And quite frankly, in our court, very few do. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore, Judge Paley. You know, I like you all, but you know, if we could reduce it just because people don't need to be in the court system, that would be great.
right.
Yeah. So, you know, some of our residents may not know that we have an incredible specialized docket in Franklin County. And just this year, over the summer, I provided a keynote to our Catch Court graduates, 2 graduates. Even in the midst of a pandemic, we still had 2 women graduate from the program. So I'm wondering if we could spend a moment just talking about these dockets, why they are helpful to residents, and how it is, it's a form of criminal justice reform, if you will. You're on mute, Judge Paley.
The specialized dockets are really important to our courthouse and to the community, but I also want to point on the fact that all of our cases in our courthouse are evidence-based now with our pretty innovative probation and the fact that all cases are addressed. I also want to brag about we are the first in the world to have an LGBTQ-specific domestic violence program through our probation department. That was just really earth-shattering for not only our community, but it got national news. I'm really, really proud of that. But to talk about the special entity dockets, we have a court that's specific for veterans that Judge Barrows heads, that because we all know that veterans have specialized needs. We have courts for people that have mental health problems. Unfortunately, Sheriff Baldwin would tell you that the jail is the largest mental health facility in the state, and that is not what we want. And we're really working hard on that one. So, and not just through the mental health docket, but through everything in our courthouse. So we have that one. We have a opiate drug court, and we have a non-opiate drug court. And I'm trying to put this in English so that people can understand it instead of using the letters that we use to represent them. Obviously, opiates have special needs. We are also very proud that we have a medically assisted treatment program for Vivitrol that actually is in the courthouse. So it's kind of a one-stop shop where you can get your Vivitrol shot, you can get talk to your counselors, social workers, jobs and family services, or anybody else that you may need to be successful. And we have been extremely successful with our medically assisted treatment program. What am I missing? the non, I think that's it. Am I missing one, Judge Barrows? He's giving me,
Catch court.
oh, well, of course. Well, she already talked about Catch Court. That program is, Judge Herbert is made famous throughout the world. And we are, he is very successful with that court. Obviously, people that are being picked up for solicitation or human trafficking, which would be the better word and the word that we like to use, have obvious special needs in all kinds of areas that deal with abuse and substance abuse. But most importantly, with the Catch Court, there's camaraderie between them that helps them recover. When you realize that you're not the only one in that situation, it really makes a difference.
Thank you, Judge Paley and Judge Barrows. As I've been stating, I'm committed to this work of reimagining and reinvesting in our communities. And, every area of government, every entity and individual has a role to play in the work that it will take to bring about true criminal justice reform. So I get very excited about these specialized dockets because oftentimes we see the criminalization of poverty, the criminalization of circumstances, and these help to separate some of those issues and give individuals an opportunity to have a second opportunity at life, right? So thank you both for your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Last but certainly not least, we will hear from Franklin County Municipal Clerk Lori Tyack. Clerk Tyack, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Councilmember Favor and staff. I'm so excited to present our 2021 operating budget and to highlight some of the accomplishments of the Franklin County Municipal Court Clerk's Office during this past year. First, I'd really like to say thank you to my staff for their commitment to service during this difficult year. I'd like to also recognize my leadership team, Division of Directors, my Chief Deputy, Obi Lucas, Crystal Ross, the Fiscal Administrator, and Marilyn Stevens, my Director of Public Relations, and all the other members of my administration. This was a very tough year, and everyone in the clerk's office went above and beyond to ensure that all requirements outlined in our mission and vision statements were met. Our mission is to accurately maintain and safeguard court records, collect and disperse funds, while promoting equal access, fairness, and transparency. Our vision is to provide access through competent customer service, communication, and community outreach. And this year we added a value statement, commitment to the core values of respect, integrity, justice, and compassion for all that we serve. Our court has both countywide and citywide jurisdiction. Land annexed by the city extends into 2 other counties, Delaware and Fairfield. The clerk's office processes traffic citations and criminal complaints for more than 24 law enforcement agencies and all criminal traffic cases transferred from 19 mayor's courts. In addition, the clerk's office accepts case filings for civil cases up to $15,000 in damages and small claims court cases valued at $6,000 and less. Programs such as rent escrow and trusteeships assist members of the public with landlord-tenant issues and credit matters. Funds are collected by order of the court and dispersed in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, municipal and county ordinances, and local court rules. Annual audits are performed by an independent accounting firm hired by the City of Columbus. Annual reports detailing the daily operations, financial statements, and caseload of the clerk's office are available online and in print for public view. 2020 really proved to be a challenging year. In January, the clerk's office, with support from the court, adopted a new process for displaying eviction history on its website. Individuals who have issues with housing have a long history of evictions sometimes. The clerk's office maintains all paper files dating back to 1992, with electronic information posted on our website dating back to 2000. Based on a recommendation by the Columbus Women's Commission, the clerk's office decided to limit the case history on all evictions to 3 years to improve ability of those who need to acquire affordable housing. Dayton Municipal Court followed our lead a few months later, and other courts in Ohio have also reduced their eviction history to try to help those who are challenged with finding affordable housing. Most, if not all, of the community service programs we normally participate in were canceled or were held virtually. So instead of sharing about those programs, I would like to share with you how the clerk's office adapted to the new normal for operating during COVID-19. Internal discussions regarding operational changes began in mid-March due to the closure of the municipal court. In late May, the court secured additional space at the Columbus Convention Center to allow safe distancing for staff and hundreds of people who attend traffic and eviction hearings daily. The court partially reopened on June 1st. The number of cases scheduled per day were limited to ensure safety, requiring tens of thousands of court cases to be rescheduled. In response to the backlog of cases pending, the city prosecutor's office dismissed 8,700 cases. The clerk's office staff sent out notice letters to those whose hearings were canceled or rescheduled to the Columbus Convention Center, updating more than 27,000 cases within a 2-month period, in addition to its daily operations. The court's partial reopening on June 1st at the Columbus Convention Center and the municipal court building required the clerk's office to make adjustments in processes, procedures, and staffing levels. Additional technology services, support, and equipment were necessary for more than 450 users of the court and the clerk's office. Adjustments were necessary for daily operations, which also included expanding network access for those working outside the office, transporting thousands of files to and from the convention center, and transitioning criminal and civil division deputy clerks to the new location to support the court's hearings. Cases were updated on site. Customer and payment services were provided through live agent kiosks. Back at the municipal court building, the clerk's office collaborated with the court, BIS, which is a vendor, the Franklin County Data Center, and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office to implement video arraignment, reducing the number of defendants who appear in person to a handful. This change was an enormous undertaking, and I want to give kudos to the court for the successful implementation of this new technology. As far as PPE goes, reusable masks were issued to all staff. Cleaning and sanitizing supplies were provided to keep workstations clean, and barriers were installed at workstations and in courtrooms to ensure a safe distance was met between clerk staff and the public. A rotating work schedule was established in every division to enable social distancing and protect the operational needs of the office. Telemeeting and phone conferences were implemented when possible in lieu of in-person meetings. Some staff were provided laptops with VPN access to allow work from home. I'm one of those. We also implemented process changes for criminal and civil case filings by expanding the types of documents that we are accepting through our electronic filing portal and added a drop box on the first floor to make it convenient to drop off filings. We continue to accept filings through regular U.S. mail and fax filings. An exciting new program that we will be implementing this year and into next year involves a recent law passed by the Ohio legislature regarding a BMV permanent amnesty reduction program. This program became effective December 13th of this year. We look forward to working with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to provide assistance to those who've had their driver's license suspended and may need to retake their driver's test or enroll in a remedial driving class. Once they are in compliance with all court orders, they may be eligible for a reduction in reinstatement costs or to be placed on a court-ordered payment plan. We look forward to working with all of our partners on this exciting initiative. The clerk's office applied for several CARES Act grants during this last year and received funds totaling $190,851. CARES Act funds applied for and received through the City of Columbus totaled $94,371. The projects were supported using these funds include software upgrades and 5 kiosks. A software upgrade was made to our imaging software, and new imaging processes were implemented by criminal traffic and civil divisions to capture documents previously uncaptured and to include them in the available viewing in our electronic case management system. This change was necessary to meet social distancing requirements for document sharing and instead of person to person in the courtrooms. 5 additional kiosks were purchased with improved software options and custom reports for tracking payments and services provided with those kiosk machines. The Ohio Supreme Court provided grant funds totaling $5,000 for a remote online notary pilot. Just to share a little background with you, on September 20th, 2019, Ohio passed the Notary Modernization Act, which allows notaries an option to perform notarial acts remotely through the use of a computer instead of the traditional face-to-face transactions. The clerk's office received a $5,000 grant from the Ohio Supreme Court and $8,345 from the Franklin County Bureau of Justice Assistance. The costs associated with this pilot include an online 3-hour mandatory training class at a cost of $270 per person or per notary. Those classes are provided by the Ohio Secretary of State. A per notary registration fee by the vendor, charged by the vendor at $100 each, and initial setup costs to be determined. We anticipate having 6 remote online notaries, including 2 individuals that serve at the Franklin County Self-Help Center. Each transaction is expected to cost around $10 or more, depending on the document size, but there will be no cost passed on to our customers. The clerk's office expects to go live with this service in late January and will continue those services until the funds are depleted. Franklin County also provided an opportunity to apply for coronavirus emergency supplemental funding through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. The total amount received by the clerk's office was $91,480. In addition to the funds provided for the remote online notary project, as I mentioned before, the clerk's office received $83,135 for an e-filing portal for law enforcement. The e-filing portal will provide law enforcement an opportunity to electronically file, track, and access search warrants and investigative subpoenas in real time while successfully maintaining social distancing. And now for the budget. The clerk's office 2021 budget. Proposed operating budget is $12,467,435. The overall budget is a 2% decrease from the 2020 budget, due mostly to a decrease in personnel and benefits. We have $11,520,669 allocated for personnel, $140,734 for materials and supplies, and $806,032 for services such as postage and fleet. The clerk's office has been asked to take a 3.9 vacancy credit valued at $447,619, or for us, it would be the equivalent of 8 employees. And I just want to do a side note that 8 employees is the equivalent of 1 entire shift on criminal traffic after the 5 o'clock hour. So that may hit us really hard if and when our caseload goes back up from where it has been this year. The clerk's computer fund request includes $696,787 for personnel, $61,000 for materials and supplies, and $786,942 for professional services and contract, for a total of $1,544,729. This fund is supported through collection of court costs according to state statute and is approved by our administrative judge annually. The clerk's office is respectfully requesting 1 additional technology staff member to support an ever-increasing need for technology support. Members of the court and clerk's office have added equipment such as laptops to perform their daily responsibilities from home. The additional equipment and technology support requests have placed an undue burden on the limited resources available in the clerk's office, Office of Information Services. On behalf of the clerk's office and the public, I want to thank the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and the Ohio Supreme Court for the CARES Act funding and the other funding which supports necessary adjustments in operations and supplemented our new projects for 2020 and 2021. I'd also like to thank you, Councilmember Favor, and your wonderful staff, Mayor Ginther, Director Lombardi, and staff, and the other members of Columbus City Council for your support, and the citizens of Columbus and Franklin County for the opportunity to serve as your Franklin County Municipal Court Clerk. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Clerk Tyke, for your testimony this evening. So I understand that due to the pandemic, the license reinstatement amnesty program was put on hold this year, but has recently been reinstated to some degree. And as we continue to talk about reform, providing an opportunity for people to get their license reinstated is crucial to their ability to obtain employment, get to school, take care of loved ones, et cetera. So can you talk about the success of the program last year and your vision for the program moving forward in 2021?
Well, in 2019, we held two different events for giving people the opportunity to apply to get their license back, to have the reinstatement costs reduced. And this year, because of the pandemic, we really haven't been able to have that in-person and face-to-face services that we offer. And the program actually expired the end of last year, which is December 31st, 2019. And we've been waiting for the legislature to pass this amnesty bill that will be permanent. So one of the things that we hope to do once we're able to open back up completely is to reach out to those individuals who were unable to come last year. We assisted over 2,000 individuals with their driver's license issues. It was so exciting to see all the good that we did. Some were able to have their reinstatement costs reduced from thousands of dollars down to like $80 or less than $100. It gave them hope. It was inspirational. My staff really worked hard. We started measuring the number of footsteps that we took. We had, with all of our Apple Watches and Fitbits. And I think the highest number of steps was 30,000 in one day. So they were running all over the place and just doing a fantastic job. And it's so uplifting to all of the staff and to me, and I hope to the public, when we can offer something that really makes a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely, Clerk Tyke. And, let me give your team a round of applause. For residents that don't know, one of the events was actually held at the courthouse, and then another one was held at the King Arts Complex in the King Lincoln District. I think it's incredibly important for residents who have had unfortunate encounters with our criminal justice system, and it's left a negative impact on their lives. That providing an opportunity to go to a safe place, if you will, to interact with the arm of the criminal justice system, and an effort to get their lives back on track. So I thank you for hosting those programs, and I'm looking forward to supporting the initiatives moving forward in 2021. Given the pandemic, just wondering, are case filings down this year? And if so, can you talk about the loss in fees and why that would be important to as a budgetary concern for you?
Well, I think one of the things that started us out on this track was just the dismissal of almost 10,000 cases, because it would be too difficult to hear them all within a timely manner, and we do have laws and regulations that require court hearings to take place within so many days of the person being issued a citation. So what we saw was a huge reduction in traffic citations from just that, and that was from March to June. And honestly, officers are writing less tickets, and in an effort to help those individuals that really, don't have funds to pay, the court has been trying to work with them to make it affordable. I mean, they are admitting guilt, they are paying the fines and court costs, but oftentimes at a reduced rate. And the court costs are the $10 of all court costs go towards the operations and support for our computer fund. And that pays for equipment, staffing, software, support contracts, just a multitude of things. And we've seen a huge decline in the amount of funds that have come in under those court costs. So we're very concerned about that. We've been conservative with our budget over the last few years. And we're trying to save as much money as we can while still accommodating the changes at this fast pace that the court has been making and we've been making. And it's all good, but it's a catch-22. You have to have a little bit of funds to be able to move forward with technology. I'm on the court's iCourt task force that was commissioned by Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor, and they are asking everybody in Ohio, what changes have you implemented since the pandemic? Are you willing to consider other types of technology? If so, yes. If not, why not? And there's just so much out there that we aren't using as a court system that's possible. It's an exciting committee, and I look forward to sharing with you some of the ideas that they've come up with. But our court's done a fantastic job of jumping in light years in just a few months. Mm-hmm. And it's been difficult to support all of their increased needs and our increased needs. Mm-hmm. And we've got to start looking at how we can completely go to electronic filing to receive all documents so that we're not shuffling paper and moving those files back to the convention center and back to the courthouse and making sure everything gets updated. It's going to be quite a transition for all of us, but it's something that I think we really have to do moving forward.
Clerk Tighe, you must be reading my mind because my next question was actually on e-filing. What dockets are currently being e-filed now, and what are your plans for e-filing in 2021?
Well, each division in the office and each area of law that we handle, starting with traffic violations, we are working with the Ohio Highway Patrol and have been for a few years now to perfect an electronic citation program where we will accept images of the citations almost within 20 minutes of them being written from law enforcement, from all of our agencies, including the Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Office, and Columbus Division of Police. We have about 6 agencies that are willing to do a pilot with us. And we've been working with our vendor to make sure that the information coming across is correct. We've had a couple of problems with data transferring, and so we're still working out those issues. Criminal traffic, we are accepting documents from attorneys electronically as we speak. There isn't any filing fee for criminal documents. We also accept filings from the city attorney's office and any of the government agencies that are allowed to postpone the payment of those filing fees until the end when they collect those funds from the defendant if they win the case. Civil cases, we are accepting some civil case filings. We are working with our vendor to create a payment process. Excuse me. And some of the software upgrades are necessary before we can complete that process. So we're accepting expungements or record sealings from several colleges in the areas because the students are considered indigent. So there's no cost to file those applications. We're working with the Self-Help Center on also accepting electronic applications for those. And we have legal aid and a couple other nonprofit organizations such as Legal Aid that are also filing electronically some of those documents. So we have a pretty good start. We're working with the court to start using those images that we have available, but we also need to capture what the court does in the courtroom as far as their orders to make it more of a full picture in our case management system.
Wonderful. And my last question, you've mentioned the digital data sharing as a strategic priority for 2021. So can you discuss some of the ways in which you will accomplish this next year?
Yes, well, we're working with the court on a probation module for the state, the Ohio Community Service system, and we're trying to work with them to share our data. We run into proprietary issues with our vendor where we cannot share the data structure, but we can share the data. So it's very difficult to navigate. We've been trying to get this to work for the court for a couple of years now. but that's still on the list to do. The court has also approached us because they'd like to create digital operations within the courtroom itself, so there's no paper moving from desk to desk. And they've asked us to share those records as well in a data format. So we're trying to negotiate how we can work that out with our vendor and with the court. And the Common Pleas Court is working to implement a new case management system through Tyler Odyssey. And they have reached out to us to see if we can work together to share the data in our system through some kind of an application or integration piece.
Thank you, Clerk Teig, for your testimony this evening. It's been a pleasure working with you and your team this year of COVID-19.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So now I will open the floor up for the public testimony portion of our agenda. I believe we have 2 speakers on with us tonight. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Miss Angie, let me confirm with you if those individuals were able to make it on this evening. I believe first up we have Tia Johnson.
Council member, I do not show Tia listed in the attendee list.
Thank you. Do you have a Miss Ashley on your list?
No, ma'am, I do not. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. Please let the record reflect that we did call both of our speakers to provide testimony this evening. So in closing, let me once again thank each department that has presented and provided us with details of their 2021 budgets. I'd like to thank all the directors and their staffs, as well as Council's Legislative Research Office for their work to prepare for this hearing. Thank you to Mark Carter, Angela Burks, and the entire staff at CTV for helping us host these hearings and stream them live. And to my staff, Tynesha Harden, Anissa Lieben, Nia Walters, and Andrew Dyer. There's been a lot of work that has been done this year and in preparation for tonight's hearing. Thank you for your hard work and commitment to providing the best service to our residents and colleagues. Again, this has been a challenging year, but we will continue our work to ensure all Columbus residents live in a city that works for them. Earlier in the fall, I introduced the Housing for All legislative package that will address source of income discrimination, renter's choice, and rental receipt. My team and I are still working hard at editing the language and following up with stakeholders. I am looking forward to hosting another hearing early to 2021 and bringing this package up for a vote. Please continue to stay tuned for additional details. Finally, I'd like to take this moment to wish all of our residents a safe, healthy, and happy holiday season. I know that this has been a challenging year for many, from the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic downturn, and to the outcry for racial justice across the world. And even now, our own community is once again mourning the loss of another Black man at the hands of law enforcement, Mr. Casey Goodson Jr. The work that lies ahead of us in Columbus won't be easy or quick. Real change is never instantaneous. What I'm fighting for is real change, a shift in power, access, opportunity, and wealth. That type of change won't go down without a collective fight, but we can and will win this battle by standing and working together. Although this year looks different, please take time to celebrate safely and responsibly. Please wear your mask, wash your hands, and practice social distancing. I look forward to pushing ahead in the new year. This will now conclude this evening's hearing. Thank you again, everyone, and happy holidays.
Thank you.